recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed. Many have chosen to place your trust in me, trust in the Liberal Party. Millions of our fellow citizens preferred a different outcome. And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home.
So that is the new Prime Minister, newly elected of Canada, Mark Carney. And the reason it's Mark Carney is because, hey, the polls turned out to be true once again. Although I'm sure many of the people who thought that the polls were lying also believe that the election was stolen in Canada. It doesn't look that way. No, the polls indicated that the Liberals were doing much better against the Conservatives than they had been earlier. And indeed, they actually won. Now, they had been in a bad way for quite a while, leading up to and even after Justin Trudeau's resignation. But then things started to turn around. And while I do want to keep the focus on, like, this is a thing happening in Canada, it's very important to them, it is hard to avoid the connection to our own politics, because it really does seem as if nobody had a bigger effect on the election than Donald Trump, because he started the tariffs against Canada, started a trade war, started insulting them on a regular basis, not only Trudeau, but constantly needling them about becoming our cherished 51st state. And that has inspired, at least from what I've seen, the most nationalism I've ever seen in Canada. And they don't like it. And they don't necessarily want MAGA Canada, or MACA or whatever, when they're hating Donald Trump. And so it looks like they moved back towards the Liberals. And look, that's my interpretation. I think a lot of people feel the same way, but you can look at the polls and you can see the Conservatives had been riding high for a very long time, polling super high. And then Donald Trump got his greasy, self-tanner smeared hands all over Canadian politics. And I don't think we've ever seen a turnaround like that. Now, it wasn't only the Liberals going up and the Conservatives going down. You do see that reduction in the NDP as well. You see smaller changes in the Green Party, the People's Party, those sorts of things. But the single biggest effect was on the Liberals versus the Conservatives. And that's the way it went. The Liberals won a victory by 23 seats. Quite a few seats for the Conservatives still. They weren't absolutely annihilated or anything. But it is hard to come out of this and not think that Donald Trump caused this. And we'll talk more about what he's now saying about it. But Viviana, what do you think about Canada?
Two things. Donald Trump did cause this. The Toronto Star has been a failing publication for many years. Polls are worthless. No, Canadians actually are very nationalistic. They're very proud of who they are. And even though we're seeing that like patriotism come out with this election, I think that's probably why it has happened, because there's a lot of pride in being Canadian and almost being like better than Americans. They find themselves to be more fair. I mean, if you were to really kind of a sociological perspective of who they are, they're more collectivistic as a nation. So I think that even though the political makeup is similar to the United States, as in the coasts are a little bit more liberal, and then middle Canada is very similar to middle America as well politically. So I think now that you're seeing this like brazen attacks against Canadian people and putting them down, like you're going to be our 52nd state,
51st state,
51st one. I don't know who's first and second.
You're giving an honorary one to Puerto Rico, I think.
Exactly. They're never going to do that. They were offended. And I think, our base energies, when we're offended like that, I think it really affected the movement there in Canada. So I'm not surprised, and we'll see what the Toronto Star says.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's very strange. Like, Trump he's not posting about it as far as I can see this morning. I went to his Truth Social thing, which don't ever do that. And it's just constant people fawning over him on the 100 days, like the deepest cultists in his movement. Generally, when he does like a big endorsement or whatever and gets involved in an election, if it doesn't go his way, he just attacks the person that he was boosting and pretends that it was their fault. In this case, he seems to be implying now that he actually wanted to destroy the Conservatives. I don't understand that. I'm not an expert on Canadian politics. Maybe there's some 3 or 4 or 5 dimensional chess where he'd prefer to have a party in power that's vigorously opposed it. I don't understand. Maybe he wants a boogeyman. Maybe he wants a villain in Canada that he can play the MAGA movement off of. I don't know. Or maybe this is just his copium, that he pretends that I actually wanted this thing that I probably didn't want. I don't know. It's very strange, but I want to give you just a little bit more from Mark Carney, actually more directly addressing the Trump impact of this.
And now, in the face of this crisis, united, we are buying Canadian. We are exploring everything this country has to offer. We are supporting our friends and neighbors in the crosshairs of President Trump through a crisis that we did not create. United, we will win this trade war and build the strongest economy in the G7, an economy that works for everyone.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the approach of the person you would want as Trump to be in charge, a person who's like saying, we're gonna fight you on this trade. Wouldn't you want someone who's pitching themselves as kind of like mini Trump? But again, maybe I'm just not galaxy brain enough. But that's the new PM. Let's go now to one of the voters. This is a Canadian woman who went viral for what she had to say about Trump.
I think who I voted for would be the best to take care of Trump. Because Trump is, I'm sorry to say, an ass. And he shouldn't even be president of the United States. But because he is, we need a strong person so that we could stand strong.
You don't have to apologize for that. Viviana, what do you think?
I mean, I love that lady. She spoke her mind, and she's sorry to say that he is, not that she's sorry to say it.
Oh, there you go. That's true.
I don't like to think that Trump he can really plan ahead. I don't feel like he does. But if we're really trying to think of why he would say, yeah, this is what I wanted, maybe he is looking for a reason to go to war with Canada. Maybe he is looking for a reason to crash because he does want to sort of take control or have a reason to invade or have a reason to bump up the border and all these. Because when you create these problems, then you create the conflict that you can now try to dominate and quote unquote win, which is his whole Charlie Sheen thing. He's winning. Tiger Blood.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, again, they want these enemies, and maybe Trump is getting bored about just talking about trans people all the time or whatever. Like maybe he likes having it in Canada. I don't know. I'm glad for Canada that they had this, but a little bit worried about what Trump is going to do with it. If you enjoyed that, make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming an actual member. But you're probably wondering, why the hell would I do that, John? First off, calm down. The stakes in this are very, very low. But also, when you click the join button and you become a member, you get access to bonus content that I make every week, and it's a ton of fun. You get access to tons of custom emojis and more besides that. By the way, if you join at tier 3, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself and other awesome people, and we always have a great time. By the way, you'll get all that going forward, but you also unlock years of the back catalog. That is literally 100 or more bonus clips, top 10 lists, debates, and more. What are you waiting for? Click the join button below. Your support powers our show, and we couldn't do it without you. Or at the very least, I wouldn't really want to try. Viewers like you keep me here. So thank you in advance for joining.